How in the world, as artists, do we balance our creative pursuits with family time? Today on Honestly, Dear Listener, I'm talking to my life partner, Seth Schaeffer of the Behind the Act podcast about balance, boundaries, and parenting. And we're also talking about attaching our worth to our identities and our approach to making things both when we're supposed to be good at something and when we're not. Today it's just me and our guest, but don't fret, Emily will be back next week. I'm Carrie Schaeffer, and this is Honestly, Dear Listener.
Honestly, dear listener.
Woo! Oh my gosh, here you are. Thank you for
I'm
coming
here.
on this podcast episode with me, life partner. I was going to say husband, but
Yeah, what's the proper thing to say there?
I don't know. I mean, kind of whatever. What do you want to be known as?
I kind of don't care, but husband's fine.
Great.
Identify as a male and, we're partners.
Y'all, this
We're
is my
married.
husband. Okay, I'm trying to introduce you now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This is my husband, Seth. He is a fellow podcaster. His podcast is Behind the Act. I was on it the other day. It's very good and very professional. So y'all should check it out. He is a songwriter, a musician, a filmmaker, the list goes on of this man's talent. And I happen to be able to sit in the rays of his talent.
The rays.
The rays. They shine upon my face. And yeah. So anyway, thank you so much for coming on here. Emily is not with us today. She had a prior engagement. And so it's just the Schaeffers talking.
Hey,
Hey.
everyone.
So, okay. So Seth, tell us a little bit about your podcast and what it's all about.
It started from the idea that one of my favorite things about filming, because I do short documentary films with people, is the conversation. And I always have these, to me, pretty deep, honest conversations in order to get these little snippets out in the films. But I've always loved the long conversations. And so, when we decided to do something in the realm of the podcast world, I decided that having conversations that are uncut, well, mostly uncut, unless we, cough loudly or, make it gentle to the...
Like if I farted on your podcast, you would probably take that
or
out.
like, especially mutual farts, we don't do... I don't keep those in.
Wait,
usually.
What are mutual farts? Like when we fart at the same
count
time?
Down from 3 and do it at the same time. Is that...
Scratch the professional that I mentioned earlier. Yeah. Not super professional.
Yeah. No, I mean, and because we have a film company, we happen to have a few nice cameras and nice mics. So that's why it's professional looking. I mean, it would be unnecessary to just have for a podcast, especially to get going. But anyway, I'm really proud of what it is already and the conversations that I've had with people there. We go usually to pretty vulnerable and honest, deep moments with everybody. And I enjoy it. I'm excited to keep going. I feel like it's just getting started.
Have you ever had a guest that you just made totally uncomfortable and they were like, ooh, I don't want to talk about that?
On purpose? There have been some moments that I've cut that I said, I went down a trail that they didn't want to go down.
Whoa. So, was it awkward?
No. I mean, not to me. I don't feel, I feel like people are okay to not share what they don't want to share. So I'll ask questions,
Yeah. Totally.
But I mean, I know that they don't feel like they were trying to get trapped somewhere either. I tell everybody, it's like my goal is for this to be something that everybody is able to feel comfortable sharing. There's no gotcha moments. I'm not there to trick somebody into saying something stupid. I mean, I do add fart noises, but other than that,
you do just like randomly.
Only on your episode. You have to listen closely. But,
oh man.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to know that I fart now. They had no idea before.
I'm sure you and Emily haven't talked about that yet, right?
Emily and I never talk about farts, babe. We are far too refined of ladies to do so. Come on. Yes. We're almost 40. That's not what cultured ladies talk
Your
about.
life goal is to be maturity in the dictionary, right? Your picture to show
Basically.
up there. Yeah.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah.
How did you know that?
Well, we've been married for a long time, so
Yeah, we have a long time.
I knew you were going to do that.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Yep.
A really long time,
A
like almost
really, really long time.
like
Like
we're getting close to 20 years.
uncomfortable. Just kidding.
Isn't that crazy? Like we've been married for almost 20 years. Like how have you stood it?
I could ask you the same thing.
Oh, well, lots of
You're like,
therapy
define
and
stood
just
it.
kidding.
Just kidding.
Let's talk about I want to talk about things that we were never supposed to be good at, because I think that
Hmm.
you have some things that you've pushed into that you're like, yeah, pressure's off here. I don't have to be good at this. Tell me about that.
Fil- Filmmaking was one of those. It was very easy to jump into because I wasn't supposed to be good at it.
Hmm.
And music has always been attached to my identity. So music is what I was quote unquote supposed to be good at. I felt, I mean, from the time I was a little kid, it was always like, play this song, play this song, play this song.
Like for
At
other people.
like, yeah, people would always be like, hey, can you play a song for us so that we can all clap and make you feel awkward? I mean, they
Did
didn't
you?
phrase it that way, but
So it was like perform, monkey, perform.
uh-huh.
Uh
Yep.
huh.
Yeah. And so it was always an attached, something that attached to my identity. And so when I started doing more filmmaking stuff, I wasn't supposed to be good at it. So I was able to fail much more often and more quickly and get really excited about that process of just getting better. So, because I'm not supposed to be good at it. And so more recently, I've been pushing heavily into realizing that there's a lot about music that I'm quote unquote not supposed to be good at. And so I'm able to fail fast and quickly in this process as well. So it's been fun. But I think
You
that go ahead.
go ahead. No, you go ahead.
No, you go
No,
ahead.
you after
I
you. No,
think
after
that,
you.
no. I think that it's important to identify what things you attach to your identity, because I think for you personally, like your writing stuff, like you're supposed to be a good writer, and it makes it difficult, I think, to go win and succeed at it because you're judging yourself through it. But you like sewing, you're like, no problem. I'm gonna go make an entire blazer. Fine.
Hmm.
I don't know. I think it's an interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
What do you mean by attached to your identity? Can you unpack that for me?
For me, what I mean by that is what I think other people perceive me as. So
Mhm.
it has more to do with the fear of judgment from others than it is from my own self, even though the truth is that it's my own judgment that I'm placing onto other people,
Mhm.
looking at me. So, but my identity as a musician, like it was pretty on the nose heavy through high school and middle school and even starting off in college. Like, I'm a musician, like that's what I do. So it
Mhm.
was easy to assume that other people perceive me as being that, and then so I'm comparing myself to other people,
Mhm.
um, and especially attaching to how good I know I'm not, instead of enjoying how good I am at the certain things that I'm good at.
So, question for you, and I'm trying to figure this out for myself in my own mind, and I don't quite know the answer. If you were on an island and there was like all this music stuff, like suspend your disbelief. Like I know that this wouldn't happen, but just go here with me. And there's like all the technology and all of the instruments and all of the things that you're interested in doing. There's no one around. Do you feel like you would attach things to your identity then? Or is it only this idea of attaching things to our identity? Does it only happen in the presence of other people?
I think I struggle in the presence of other people, not in the midst of my own, like just being myself. So
Hmm.
it is a confusion or whatever you want to call it about what other people are thinking and why people judge and why people are mean, and stop bullying me as a little kid trauma stuff, I'm sure. But, it still sustains. And I take that still as, a 40-year-old man, like, and get scared of other people's judgment. But I'm aware that that's silly, quote unquote, but it's not kind to myself to ignore it and shove it down. I think it's
Mm.
better to talk about and to address and just speak openly about. I'm not trying to complain or have somebody come pat me on the head and be like, it's okay. It's
Mhm.
more, I'm really looking for um, myself to acknowledge that, yeah, I do struggle with this. I'm afraid, and it's okay that I'm afraid, and it's okay that other people are afraid. I think it's helpful for other people to hear that. And
Mhm.
often in my podcast, we go down that, and I would say that literally 95% of people. So in other words, there's like one or two, just mathematically on the podcast, that I don't think we're uh, as quick to open up about being afraid, or maybe weren't afraid. But
Mhm.
everybody else, I think it's like everybody deals with it, especially in the creative space.
Oh
So,
yeah. Yeah. So that's interesting because I feel like for me, it starts with me. Like, I am the one that projects to the world, by the way, world, here's the list of things that I expect myself to be good at. And then people come alongside me and be like, great, I co sign on that because you know yourself better than you do. And then the pressure, and then it starts that whole engine. But like, there are people out there that are like, because you're such a good writer. And I'm like, you've literally never read anything I've ever written. And I've actually, like, to one person, I've actually said that. I've said, you've never read anything that I've written. And then they said, well, if your podcast is anything like how you write, and so I go, am I the one telecasting, you know, how I want to be perceived out into the world? I think I am.
yep.
And
You,
then with that comes all the pressure. What were we going to say?
I was just going to say, yeah, I think it's safe to be judged because it confirms a bias that lets you go, yeah, see, I knew I wasn't good enough. I knew I wasn't
Mm,
um, capable, like, and at least that person's smart enough to see it too. So you're like helping them along to not believe in you. And I think this conversation around AI and its immense capacity and ability is giving permission for us to even more so push into the uniqueness of ourselves. Because
explain that.
if you have something like ChatGPT right now, and obviously that can date itself moving forward, but or Mid-Journey for images, and again, whatever it is in the future, but they are so incredibly capable of creating beautiful images,
Mm.
and they do it prolifically and just absolutely beautifully, and it has its own style or look right now, but it's just a baby. It's just getting going. So the truth is that as a writer and as a musician and as a filmmaker and as whatever, it doesn't matter, as a designer, especially looking into engineering concepts, just all of it, like the AI is going to be able to be at least a teammate in that, if not way more capable than all of us. And so I think it has more to do with our creativity from our experience that always mattered to begin with anyway. It was never
Mm.
that we were going to be the best, because there's no such thing, you
Mm-hmm.
know? Like, I don't know, I could come up with a bunch of silly examples, like Bruce Lee was, didn't win at wrestling or something, but the point is that there's no such thing as the best. It just has to do with your experience. And some
Mm-hmm.
people, of course, get close to that at certain things, but that still isn't why people care. The best musicians out there are not famous,
Mm.
and, it's just, we don't, the best writers will probably never publish a book because they're scared.
Oh, that kills me. Yeah, no, I think you're right. Um, so what then is the fix? Because I often ask myself this: is it that I do I stop talking about things that I want to do because it puts pressure? It like telecasts to others, here's what I expect to be good at in the future. So, do I just not talk about it? Do I what do we do? How do we respond? Seth, how do I fix it?
I don't know the answer, of course.
What?
Do I I do suppose though that acknowledging that you're afraid and that you're doing that thing is the first step, of course.
Mm,
And then secondly, remembering that it's okay to enjoy creating and being creative, and just enjoying it is okay. And you don't have the capacity, no one does. I mean, of course you can put a bunch of money and try to change people's mind, but you don't know what people are going to think about um, your art on the other side. And really, you probably are going to be creating something that people don't like as much if you're focused heavily on trying to write something that people like.
on
Like you should,
success. Yeah.
yeah, if you're focusing on, is this character going to be something that people like? And oh, this is going to be so cool when this character's up on a poster, and then I'm gonna, I don't know what, like if you're like thinking about the reception from the public as you're creating it, you're going to muddy the waters and make something that doesn't have your fingerprint on it as much. And I think that that's going to become more and more and more and more important as
Mhm.
AI starts to take over more and more and more of jobs and creativity and that side of it. So,
Mhm.
not to
It's
keep talking about the AI front, but yeah,
No, it's important, it's timely, it's what's happening and will
yeah.
continue to happen, so it makes sense. So, as you're talking, it often when, like, your parents were like, "Just be yourself," growing up, and the more you focus on trying to be yourself, the more you're like, I don't know how to be a normal person, and I don't know how to walk and talk anymore," like, and then it gets really, really weird. That is how I feel when I try and write something that I think others are gonna like. It starts
And I,
getting really like, "What am I who is this weirdo? Why is this so wooden? All the stuff that I'm making." Bleh.
yeah, I think it's like if you go to a party and you are talking with somebody and you pick up that now they're just telling me what they think I want to hear instead of the
Yeah.
truth.
Mhm.
That is a disconnect socially and everything, because people want to know what an artist feels like. They want
Mhm.
to go into that experience with the artist. They don't want the artist to make something for them. They want to discover something that the artist lived.
Mhm.
And I just think that that's going to become, like I say, more and more and more important, which gives us even more so the ability to just forget what what matters on the reception on the other side. That's pointless anyway. Just create. Because
Mhm.
if you write this whole book that you're working on, and you uh, later decide that I just don't think it's good. It's like it's not what I want to do, but I'm glad I did it. I wrote the book. I brought it to fruition, and
Mhm.
you could publish it how you want. You can start the next one. Like there's no pressure for this to be like the book. It doesn't matter,
Right, it kinda doesn't. Like,
does
none
it?
of this really it I always go back to Elizabeth Gilbert, when she said in Big Magic, like, "This is the most important thing that you're doing, and also, like, none of it matters."
Yeah.
And to be able to hold that paradox at the same time, like, it's true. And when we put so much pressure on it to be the thing, then that takes something out of it. It's too forced, I guess.
Yeah, I'm going to use an analogy that I've never used before that is so disconnected from my reality. I don't know why I'm going to do it, but if you went to the river and decided to pan for gold and decided that that day you were going to pull 5 ounces of gold out or whatever, I don't know what the lots of gold would
I
be
feel
for the
like that's
day,
a
but
lot of gold.
I think it's a lot of gold. But I guess my point is that like if that was your goal, was like today I'm going to force this out. Like you're
Mhm.
like, well, you can't, because
Right.
when we're creatives, we're there kind of like attaching to whatever the resonance of ourselves versus the universe or whatever you want to say, that is like the inspiration is pulling in uh to create something. You get access to like explore. You get to go to the river and like pan for gold. And sometimes you walk away with a bunch, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you walk away with none. But you have to show up,
Right.
and you can't determine what the value of it's going to be on the other side. You can just show up and pan for gold. So just
Right.
do that over and over and over, and sometimes you'll win.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't show up, you won't.
Yeah. You'll
Yep.
never get any gold.
I've never gotten any gold from a literal river because I've never panned for gold. That sounds fun.
I've never gotten gold from doing anything creative.
That too.
I mean literal gold.
Literally, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Literally no
Uh-huh.
gold has like shown up.
I've
So,
never been paid in gold either. Yeah.
man,
Yeah. I think we're missing some opportunities there. Yeah.
I think we're missing the point
Yeah.
here.
I think, oh, no, not at all. I think some people are going the Bitcoin route. I think we're going to go gold. Physical
Lumps,
gold
just
is the
like,
only way. Lumps.
yeah,
Yeah.
lumps.
Unrefined.
Yeah. And I
Just,
want him to show up on my doorstep.
mhm.
Like on the welcome mat. Okay. Well,
Back on
so
track.
so the things that you were never supposed to be good at were video, right? Film and things like that. So why
Right.
did you do that? Because you've dabbled in music a lot. Like it's you have written so many scores that have gone with your that have been the soundtracks to your films. You you've written, I mean, you're constantly playing the piano and other instruments, and you always have,
Hmm.
but it hasn't been until the last couple of years that you've really buckled down and written and been consistent with it. And a big chunk of the real estate of our house, which is behind you, is a recording
It's a
studio.
mess. No.
Yeah, no.
Oh, wait.
Well, you should see what's happening over there in my craft room. Um, so why didn't you start out as a 20-something-year-old? Why did you start in video and not in music? Or I should say film. Do we say video anymore? Or is it film?
We can say whatever we want.
Okay,
I don't
whatever.
care. The truth is probably more that I was afraid,
Mhm.
from the things we're talking about. The pretend answer, if I were to be self-preserving, is that it, and there's probably some truth to this, but that it was easier to make money in the film industry too. And there's a big piece of me that one of my creative outlets is entrepreneurship. I love
Mhm.
building businesses, and I really get driven by um, having value attached to an art form or an output. And so, as much as I was just saying, like, don't worry about what other people think on the other side, I think that it's really important, at least on the music front, what I've been focusing on is being able to know how to monetize the music that does come out. So, we obviously a couple of years ago moved to Nashville, and then we built the studio in the last house and figured out how to even tune a room. But I mean, this was like calling people all the time, like, I don't know, I'm confused. How do I get to the next step on something? And then, tune a room, get the right gear. How do I even run the program? Because I switched to a different recording system. And I guess my point is that now I'm identifying all the ways that I can fail. And I'm pretty comfortable in that when I know that it's not something that attaches to me. Um, which, when it really comes down to it, there's nothing specific that attaches to me other than like the broad stroke, like musician. So if I personally go, oh, well, I don't know the music business, I can go fail at that. I don't know how to mix, I can go fail at that. I don't know how to play this instrument really well, I can go fail at it, or just enjoy that I'm not good at that one, or whatever. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah, I think that I also do enjoy filmmaking. I mean, obviously, we've talked a lot about how traumatic the process was of kind of getting out of the overwhelm from having too much stress, especially financial flow all the time. Um,
Mhm.
and,
Cuz we
but
built the business up to so many
mhm,
employees and so much real estate and
yeah,
all the things.
yeah, and there was a different vision. I never really wanted to like grow a big business, but it just kept kind of growing, and it was a necessity. And anyway, that process left me with that question of like, am I going to hate filmmaking? And I definitely don't. I really
Yeah.
enjoy what it is as a medium. It's beautiful. It's stunning. It has, again, music and picture and stills and whatever. Like you can really do a lot in helping evoke emotions. I can get very emotional with my art form when I do video. So I'm definitely not out of that either. I'm glad that I went into it. I think there's a reason I was attached to it to begin with, but
Tell me, is your at any point has your worth been attached to your identity and what you do?
yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't think that it like truly was, but I think that in my head it was. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
Is it still?
Well, maybe I don't understand the question. That's funny. I'm like, yeah, but I guess unpack
That's
that a
okay.
little bit more because I can think of that in different ways.
Yeah, worth meaning my value as a human being. Um, I mean, I think probably the ideal answer, I'm not there yet for sure, but I'm trying to get there, is that what I do has no bearing on my intrinsic value as a human being or not. Um,
Mm,
so then everything that I do, I'm able to fail because the failure doesn't actually reflect back on me as being a failure of a human being. Like we
that
can hold the failure loosely because it's not in any way attached to our worth as human beings. We're just practicing, we're just trying things, and it kind of takes the weight off.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting perception or perspective that I think is healthy and probably true
Hmm.
in certain ways. But I also think that there's something to acknowledge that as we get to live this life, we choose what we want to go do, like how we're going to be able to resonate with this experience. So, I mean, there is a power there that I think should carry weight, but um, not in the way that the quality of your output should be tied to your worth.
Mm.
So, like, but and even and worth is the wrong word because there. I think it has everything to do with what you're capable of doing. Um, like probably I'm pretty certain I'm not going to be an NBA star. Um,
You're
I'm also,
not.
yeah, I'm also pretty bad at basketball now, and I used to not be that bad. But no, but I think truthfully, like there is that. I don't know. I mean, it's like I enjoy doing things. I mean, like you got me hooked on Duolingo, and that's been really fun. And then I switched to Mandarin, and that's been really difficult. I can't say anything still. I can barely understand it still, and but my worth is not attached to that. But it's
Hmm.
something I want to enjoy going into and challenge myself on. But
But you were never supposed to be good at Mandarin. Like, no one's expecting you to be. What about music? What if you go in and you make something crappy
oh,
musically?
I've done that a lot. It's
So what
good.
does
I
that
mean, I
say about what does that say about you?
nothing because I'm showing up failing on purpose. I'm not failing on purpose, but I'm allowing failure to be part of the process. Because I mean, one thing I will say is that what I learned as a little kid, going through piano lessons was like you're always failing, like you're just always constantly not at the next bar, whatever that is. You're just
Mhm.
constantly in this state of failure. So you have to be comfortable with that and be able to push through what the what your next obstacles are. But like put yourself in that place of constantly failing. Like that to me is not. I don't see my worth attached to the quality of my output. I think that's what I was saying before. I think it
Mhm.
has more to do with me being able to show up and continue to fight. And I get frustrated when I mean, this is one thing about like the filmmaking stuff is that when I was building the studio last year, especially. I was pretty frustrated when I had to leave to go do some film stuff. But hey, I needed to leave to go do some film stuff. I don't hate the film stuff. It's just that I was feeling like I was failing at doing what I'm trying to do because I had to go do something else, which pulled me away from being successful, quote unquote, or finishing on that stage I was in on the music side. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Can we talk about something else that we were never supposed to be good at? And it's still uh, up for debate on whether we are good at in any way or not. And that is parenting. I know
Hmm.
it's a hard right, but yeah,
Define good at.
yeah. See, yeah, you just can't. You can't. What does that even mean to be a good parent? I don't know.
I see examples in my head of people that are able to work 80 hours a week, but be with their family 120 hours a week and show up
Yep.
to every basketball and soccer game and ninja practice. I'm making this up, you know, and perfectly celebrate every birthday and every holiday and go on 5 vacations a year. And I think that there's a lot out there, particularly when you look at social media, that makes you believe that everybody has their life together. And I think that there are a few people that I know that seem like they kind of do, but I don't think that um, that's fair
Hmm.
to expect from ourselves. Um, and I'm saying all of that. This is just my opinion on it, but um, I know for sure that our boys know that we love them.
Yeah.
And I know for sure that everyone in the world has trauma from childhood because of something not going correctly and needs help anyway. And it has to do with the constant uh, process of growing. And I think we've done a good job of um, asking our boys to be open with us about emotions and process, like how you're feeling really and why you're feeling that way, and then give validation to them for that. And I don't know, but my gosh, life is weird and it's hard, and COVID sucked, and
Yeah. Oh,
you
for all
know,
those people that did not have children during COVID, like, at least from where I'm sitting, y'all had it made in the shade. You probably didn't, but that's what it feels like as a parent who went through COVID with 2 kids. Oh man, that was rough.
yeah. What is your I could be wrong, but I feel like there's shame in the question almost
What question?
that you asked about the parenting stuff,
What question did I ask?
about something we're not supposed to be good at, uh, parenting.
Ah,
Like,
okay. Well, I don't know if I meant it as a segue from what I was talking about to
okay,
talking to you about parenting. I do feel though that there are lots of instances, and I think for moms, I don't know what it's like to be a dad, but I will say for a mom, I do feel a lot of pressure. And a mom in the South. Like moms in the South are extra. Like the birthday parties are big and they give like party favors and like they just look so pretty in their dresses and their hair and makeup and all the things, and I'm exhausted. Like that's great if that's what they want to do. I cannot do all the things. And
right,
sometimes I want to, and then I feel really sad that I just can't. Because a lot of times I feel like if I give what I have to my art and I give what I have to my family, there's not like there's nothing left. In fact, there's probably a deficit at
yeah,
that point. And I don't know how to I don't know how to do it all well, you know?
yeah. I think that there's a consequence to not doing only the parenting thing all the time, right? Like committing to being an artist and committing to be, a podcaster, committing, but I think it has a lot more to do with uh, how present you are when you're present,
Mm-hmm.
and having, truly connected moments when you're with the boys. Like just for context to people that don't know, there are periods of time where I have to leave for weeks at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And I will make sure as often as possible to call and at least be as present over FaceTime for, even if it's just a couple of minutes, because you guys are busy or whatever. But I think that's really important. And also, when it is time to be a family, like we make sure that, it's not easy sometimes, but make sure the freaking phones aren't driving the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
They're not in the room, just like be there. And I
Right.
think that the cascade of all of those moments are the memories that the boys will carry from their childhood, not
Yeah.
the moments where you didn't throw as big of a birthday party as their friend's mom.
Yeah. No, I think you're totally right. I think I struggle with clearly defining, okay, it's art and creativity time, because I do a lot of it. I do almost all of it at home, and I work from home, and
Mhm.
I and when it's family time, because those are not as clear cut as for people that go to work and then come home. Like for those people, it seems like, and maybe it's not this clear cut in every situation, but it seems like when you're at work, you do work things. And when you're at home, you do home things like family time. And it's just never been like that with you and I. Like,
Mm-mm.
even when we didn't have kids, it was like we're always working on something, worky something or other, or like making something or whatever it is. And now it's just even murkier now
Yeah.
that there are children. Um, and I think that that's hard. It it's hard to it's hard to carve out, this is work time and then this is family time.
Yeah.
So
I think it's hard to sustain, a discipline consistently for a long period of time, at least for me. And I
it
think,
is for me
I
too.
mean, yeah.
I mean,
And so, right. I mean, and so I think that in itself makes it difficult for us to, I mean, it's like for me, like I couldn't go work a corporate job for very long, probably, unless I really, really needed to. Obviously, I'm not, like, a lot of people are really great at that and love that and do a good job
mm,
and love that. I get anxiety thinking about that reality. And I think part of it is that um, having to do the same thing over and over and over and over and over is difficult for me.
yeah.
But but again, I think it's difficult for other people to live in the opposite, where
Mhm.
they're like, well, what's going on? How do I not, obviously there's always fear about finances and stuff when you're self-employed and trying to figure
Mhm.
out the next stages. Like that's just life. But I think even more so, like not having structure, not having quote unquote accountability from anybody, because you're like, oh, because I'm creating, I'm being an artist, that's it. Yeah, it's difficult, and I think that though has been going back to the parenting thing. What opens up our boys' realities about them needing to take care of their own stuff. Now, uh, I'll share this, but not because um, anybody's family that does or does not do this right now is. It doesn't matter. I'm not trying to project, this being us better than anybody else. It's just that we really needed to get the boys to do their own laundry because we don't have time to do that sometimes. And so it's like teaching them at a young age, like, well, you don't have clean clothes because you didn't do your laundry. Like,
Mhm.
that's a pretty reasonable step because of how we both operate,
Yeah.
um, and they're fine. That's not traumatic at all. I don't think, and occasionally
Yeah.
they don't do their laundry. you know, they both know how to um, cook different dinners or breakfasts just in case that's something that they need to do.
Mhm.
Like Um, I think it's out of necessity because we don't have the bandwidth to do the other stuff. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. And I think an artistic household is going to look differently
Hmm.
than, say, a household where one person stays home and the other one has a 9 to 5, or both people have a 9 to 5. And
Yeah.
um, I think allowing grace for that it's going to look different, um, is pretty big. It's we are kind of taught from a young age, like, oh, look at the people around you, compare yourself, and if you don't look like them, something's wrong. And I think,
It's
and I'm talking
interesting.
to myself here, that as artists, like, our lives are not gonna look the same
And
as,
I don't feel like I was raised, maybe I was, maybe some of that, but I don't remember that as the childhood, like,
well, I'm not
compared to other
necessarily
people.
even saying that your family did that or is a spoken thing, but back in caveman days, it's like if you are
Cave person.
perceived, yes, cave person, if you are perceived as different or
Hmm.
weird or outside of the normal bounds of society, people could judge you. You could be rejected. And what happens
Right.
to people that are on the margins, they get pushed out. They're not a part of the group anymore. And then they don't survive. And
Right.
so we tend to look to other people as like, am I doing this right? Am I, and that's where it's helpful to be friends with other artists that are like, yeah, it doesn't have to look like that.
Yeah.
If it works, it works. And
Yeah.
so just like give yourself a little bit of grace and room to let it
Yeah.
be what it's going to be.
I
So,
think making sure you're as gracious with yourself as you would be to somebody else is a
yeah, it's really
key.
hard. It's
Oh,
very
that's so easy.
I mean,
Just
I
kidding.
do it all the time.
Yeah,
No, it's so
totally.
hard.
Totally. Yep.
It is so easy to give other people grace generally, and so hard to give ourselves that same thing.
I think that
So,
that was one of the biggest, like, candid takeaways from therapy uh, early on. She was like, if you talk to, somebody else that was just like you, but not you, like, would you be kind to them? I'm like, well, yeah, of course.
duh.
Like, all the
Yeah.
grace in the world. Like, it just, yeah. When
Mhm.
it's attached to me, I'm like, I struggle.
Yeah.
But I think everybody does. Yeah.
I remember I have a friend whose parent one her dad's an engineer, her mom is an artist, and she remembers as a child feeling like resentful towards her mom for not, because she wanted all of her mom's time. I want all of your
Hmm.
attention as the child. I want it all, and didn't understand until she got older, and now she very much respects her mom because she modeled what it looked like to when it's family time, it's family time. But when it's work time, when we
Hmm.
sit down and we carve out that time for the things that we're making, it's that. And you need to go in the other room because right now I am working.
Right.
And um and I always remembered that. I feel like I don't hear that very often. We value mothers who are like, will sacrifice everything that they have and what they want and the things that they want to create for their children. And I mean, yeah, mothers sacrifice a lot, but like we don't talk about, what about a mother that is true to herself in that when it's time to create, it's time. And
Absolutely.
like and I always remembered that. And I so there are times when mom guilt or parental guilt creeps in when I'm making something, and
Yeah.
then I go, whoa, 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 are you having family time when it's family time? Yes. Great. Well, now it's work time, and there's going to be no guilt involved in this right now, because we are actually doing right by our kids by modeling what it looks like to have healthy boundaries.
Absolutely. And also, our boys in particular don't have the experience of knowing what it means for mom or dad having to go to work and then get off of work and come home. And so,
Hmm.
of course, when they were younger, especially, it was like, do you work? Do you have a job? Because of their perception of what it looks
Right.
like. Um, and I think that that's important for them to see that you said, no, I mean, in order to pay bills, you have to commit time that is not this other stuff. And of
Right.
course, it's nice when that aligns with school, but then summer break hits and what do you do? Um, anyway, it's difficult for
Yeah.
sure. But I think also important that you're doing that. And I feel like I do that as well, where it's like, I need this time. We have to focus on this. And for them to witness that, I think that's a very, yeah, very
Yeah.
healthy.
I want them to know what it looks like to carve out time for their endeavors. Um,
Like
so
the animations they're doing, freaking awesome.
yes, I know.
I
I
love
love
it.
it. I love
Yeah.
it.
And that's been a win. I think the last few years has been like, go fail at something, try something really
Hmm.
hard. It's easy to
Yeah.
say, but like downloading every program for them and just like do this or that and code here, build this thing, animate this thing. And I just felt like there was resistance because it was hard. And now they're like
Hmm.
both waking up, it's cool.
Yeah. Yes. It's good to see when your kids take a creative endeavor and really make it their own and choose it, not because you're like, do this thing now. Create, don't just play Roblox.
Right.
So,
And they're
yeah.
actually really funny stuff too. Like, of
I
course,
know.
like
It's great.
making me laugh.
Seth
Love it.
Schaeffer, thank you so much for joining me. I love the heck out of you.
I love
Thank
you
you for
too.
being my creative life partner and for, in a lot of ways, modeling for me what failing looks like. That sounds so weird.
Yes, I'm happy to be that for anyone.
Please understand the spirit in which I mean that. And that is that you are not put off by when things are hard or when you've quote unquote failed. You just keep going and you just keep figuring it out. And that is something that I have had to learn over, and I'm still learning. So thank you for modeling that
Me
to
too.
me.
Me too. Well, thank you. This is fun.
Bye.
Bye.
Honestly, dear listener.